So, guys, the Von Miller signing is already a massive statement by Dallas, but I think people are missing the bigger picture here. Because the Cowboys didn't just add a future Hall of Fame pass rusher who still believes he can give them 8 to 10 sacks, they added him to a defense where young players are already starting to rise. The secondary is getting deeper by the day, and Brian Schottenheimer just came out and made it clear that Dallas may not be finished adding pieces. So, yeah, Von Miller is the headline. I get it. That's what everybody's talking about right now. But when you look at everything happening around this roster at the same time, I mean, this feels a lot bigger than one signing. This feels like Dallas sent a real warning to the rest of the NFC, and I want to break down exactly why. What's up, Cowboys? Welcome to the NFL Playbook, Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So, let's start with the obvious one, because you gotta start here. Von Miller signing with Dallas is a big deal, and I don't want to gloss over it just to get to the deeper stuff. But here's what I actually care about. It's not just that they got him, it's why they got him. Dallas already had young edge talent in the building. Malachi Lawrence, Donovan Ezeuruaku, guys like that, they were already developing. So this wasn't a team that had nothing at that position and panicked. This was a team that looked at what they had and said, we like the young pieces, but we need somebody who's actually proven to get to the quarterback consistently. Somebody who's done it at the highest level for over a decade. That's a different kind of signing than just adding a body. And when you actually hear Von Miller talk about it, I mean, it's wild. He said Dallas was the first team to contact him, like a week before training camp even opened. Not during camp, not after some other team passed on him, before it even started. He said there had been talk with the Cowboys throughout the whole offseason and that he always had a little blue in his heart growing up, that this whole thing felt like it just made sense for him. And on top of that, he's saying he believes he can still walk in and get 8 to 10 sacks. He's talking about being a coach on the field as much as a player, saying he can elevate the guys around him just by being in the room. Just by showing Donovan Ezeuruaku and Rashawn Gary and these other young guys the little details that actually get you home to the quarterback. That's not just depth. That's a guy who thinks he can change how a whole room operates. And honestly, when a player at his stage of his career is talking like that, I tend to believe him. But here's where it gets more interesting to me, because Dallas didn't sign Von Miller because everything around him was already figured out. They signed him because they needed him. Think about it. You got Donovan Ezeuruaku, who's shown some really encouraging things, especially against the run, but the pass rush production, the consistent pressure, that's still something they got to see more of from him in actual games. Not just practice reps against your own offensive line. Malachi Lawrence is still developing too. So instead of throwing these young guys out there and asking them to immediately carry a pass rush, which is honestly a lot to ask of anybody that early in their career, Dallas can now rotate them. They can let Von Miller handle the specialized pass rush situations, third and long, obvious passing downs, and let the young guys learn from a guy who's been doing this since 2011. So, this isn't Dallas replacing their youth with a vet. It's Dallas surrounding their youth with somebody who's actually been through it, somebody who can shorten the learning curve for all of them at the same time. Now, while all that's been happening with the pass rush, something totally different has been developing on the back end, and I don't think people are talking about this enough. The secondary has been rising faster than I think a lot of us expected. Shavon Revel has been putting together good practice after good practice, and I'm talking about the kind of stuff that jumps off the page, the length, the speed, the physicality, the confidence in coverage. This is a guy who's stacking days right now. And it's not just him, Cobie Durant doing the same thing, stacking good days right alongside him. And what that does is it changes the whole conversation. It's not about who wins the job anymore between these guys. It's about how Christian Parker finds a way to get all of them on the field at the same time. Because when you got two guys both playing at that level, you don't want to leave either one of them off the field. And then you throw Caleb Downs into that mix, and this is where the defense starts looking really interesting to me. Don't think of him as just a nickel corner, because from what I've seen and heard, he's a lot more versatile than that. You're talking about a guy who can play nickel, who can play safety, who can play dime packages, who can be in 3 safety looks depending on the situation. With DaRon Bland, Shavon Revel, and Cobie Durant all healthy and productive, Christian Parker has enough pieces on the back end to change his whole personnel package depending on who they're playing that week. You want more size on the field against a physical team that likes to run the ball out of their nickel package, you got that option now. You want more speed against a team that likes to spread you out, you got that too. That's the kind of flexibility that gives a defensive coordinator a real advantage. And honestly, that's when I started looking at this defense a little differently. Because Dallas isn't just adding talent for the sake of adding talent anymore. They're building out actual options, actual answers for different matchups on a week-to-week basis. Now look, I'm not going to sit here and act like this roster is perfect because it's not. There are still real questions. Brian Schottenheimer himself came out and said he didn't like how the special teams looked, and honestly, watching it, I agreed with him. It did not look good out there. There are still some depth concerns on the offensive line that people have been talking about all camp, especially behind the starting tackles. There's some uncertainty at linebacker too. You got young guys who still got to prove it in live games, not just practice reps against your own guys. And normally, this is where you just have to sit back as a fan and hope those problems somehow work themselves out on their own before the season actually kicks off. Except that's not what's happening here, and that's exactly why Brian Schottenheimer's comment hit differently for me. Because right in that same press conference, after acknowledging the stuff that still needs fixing, he said, "They're not done." That's the phrase. We're not done. And when you actually sit with that for a second, I mean, think about everything that's already happened. They already went out and got Von Miller. The secondary is already developing ahead of schedule. The defensive line already looks deeper than it did a year ago. And after all of that, the head coach is standing up and telling you they're still looking to add. They're still developing players, still evaluating the roster, still potentially bringing in more pieces. That's not a coach trying to sound tough for the cameras. At least, that's not how I take it. That's a front office telling you they're not satisfied yet, even with everything they've already done this week. So, naturally, that gets me thinking about what's actually next, because Dallas clearly isn't done addressing weaknesses. Cornerback is one area that's been mentioned. Adoree Jackson specifically, given the familiarity with Christian Parker from their time together. That connection makes a lot of sense on paper. Offensive line depth is another spot worth watching, given everything Brian Schottenheimer himself flagged as a concern. And even after landing Von Miller, there's still been some talk that Dallas could look to add one more piece to that pass rush, because when you stack Rashawn Gary, Malachi Lawrence, Von Miller, and Donovan Ezeuruwaku together, and then you add one more proven piece on top of that, that's a genuinely scary group to deal with. So, I don't think it's really about naming some specific superstar and getting everybody's hopes up over nothing. I think the real question is simpler than that. Which weakness does Dallas actually go after next? And part of why I believe all this is because of the vibe coming out of that building right now. It's not just the moves, it's the way the players are talking, the way the coaches are talking. You hear it from guys like Von Miller, saying he already knows Christian Parker well, already knows Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, guys who came to his pass rush summit this offseason. He's talking about the culture like he already belongs there, and that tells me this isn't some forced fit they're trying to make work. This is a locker room that's actually bought in, and when you add a guy who already has relationships built with half the room before he even signs, that's the kind of thing that speeds everything up. You're not waiting weeks for him to learn the playbook and learn the personalities. He already knows a lot of it walking in the door. And that's really the piece that ties this whole thing together for me. It's not just about talent anymore. It's about how fast this roster is coming together as an actual unit. You've got a coordinator in Christian Parker who's got the pieces to be creative. You've got a coaching staff in Brian Schottenheimer that's not afraid to call out its own weaknesses in public. And you've got a front office that's still actively hunting for more, even after already landing one of the bigger names available this offseason. That combination is rare. Most teams either have the talent and no urgency, or they got the urgency and no talent to actually back it up. Dallas right now feels like they got both, and that's exactly why I think the rest of the NFC needs to be paying attention to what's happening in this building over the next couple weeks. So that's where I'm at with all this. If Dallas really does have one more significant move left in them, where do you want to see it? Offensive line, cornerback, or one more pass rusher added to that room? Drop it in the comments, let me know what you're thinking, and I'll catch you in the next one.